A very good morning to you all and welcome. I am Charles Nwulia, President, Evon Medics. We are truly delighted to have you join us for this exciting online premiere of Memorydriver, the groundbreaking brain training app developed by Evon Medics. Since 2013, Evon Medics has been in the forefront in the development of neurotech devices, diagnostics, and digital therapeutics, specifically for neurological and neurodegenerative diseases. With the support of the NIH to the tune of over $14 million, we have completed significant research, design, product development, pilot, and pivotal clinical trials, and are in the process of commercializing a rich pipeline of our technology. But for today, our focus will be on presenting our Memorydriver app, a brain training app inspired by some questions we asked. What if brain training could be smarter? What if it could adapt? What if it could drive cognitive wellness instead of simply tracking decline? And this packed years of research, testing, design, and innovation that eventually led to what we are launching today, Memorydriver. Memorydriver is a brain training app backed by science and designed to meet people where they are. It adjusts, it learns, and it grows with each individual, whether you're trying to sharpen your focus at work, support healthy aging, manage cognitive challenges, or simply boost everyday memory. Today, you get the first look at how Memorydriver works, the neuroscience behind it, and the mission that drives the Evon Medics team forward. To give people the tools that they need to stay mentally strong, confident, and in control of their cognitive journey. Welcome to the premiere. Welcome to the evolution of brain training. Welcome to Memorydriver. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer and the visionary behind the Memorydriver, Dr. Evon Nwulia. Eva is a professor of neuropsychiatry and director of the National Blueprints Neurotech Incubator Seedling Program and multi-principal investigator at Neurotech Harbor. I implore you all to sit tight and listen carefully as he shares his story.
So good day, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. So today is not just the launch of an app. It is the culmination of a journey, a scientific journey, a professional journey, and to me, a deeply personal one. Before I speak to you as a clinician and a scientist or a founder, I want to speak to you as a grandson. You see, my grandfather, who was very close to me, suffered from Alzheimer's disease. I watched a strong, dignified man slowly lose pieces of himself. And first it was his short-term memory, later on, then his stories, then his independence, and eventually the very essence of himself. The Alzheimer's disease does not just affect the individual that was diagnosed. It rewrites the emotional history of the entire family. It forces children to become caregivers. It turns familiar faces into unfamiliar ones. It replaces conversations with confusion. So as a physician, I remember asking myself one question. Could we have done something earlier before the damage became irreversible, before the brain starts to shrink? Now, this part of the brain that we are of interest is the hippocampus, before the memories begin to disappear. That very question shaped my entire career. For decades, Alzheimer's has been treated as something we react to after the symptoms appear, after cognitive decline has begun, after neurodegeneration, which is loss of the brain, has already taken hold. But science has changed. We now understand that the earliest structural changes in Alzheimer's disease occur in the part of the brain we call the medial temporal lobe. This includes the hippocampus, the entorhinal cortex. These regions we call form part of what we call the medial temporal lobe. These are the very same circuits responsible for short-term memory and spatial navigation, how you find yourself around your surroundings, familiar environments and new environments. And we also know something else, that these brain regions we call the medial temporal lobe, they are not static. They are plastic. They adapt. They respond to stimulation. So take, for instance, professional taxi drivers who spend years navigating complex city streets develop larger posterior hippocampi. Navigation is not just a transportation, it is a brain exercise. Driving patterns can reveal subtle decline in your cognition years before you even get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. But in a targeted stimulation of these medial temporal regions, as we recently demonstrated in a clinical trial of a product of ours called computerized olfactory training, the targeted stimulation of these medial temporal brain regions can improve cognition scores and increase the hippocampal and entorhinal cortex volume after sustained training in people with mild cognitive impairment. So simply put, Alzheimer's disease causes these medial temporal brain regions to shrink, but sustained and targeted stimulation helps this region to strengthen and to rebuild them. This is the new frontier. Not reacting to Alzheimer's disease, but training the brain before decline begins and before this decline accelerates. That is why we founded Evon Medics. Evon Medics was built on this core belief that the brain can be trained and that training must be accessible, it must be scalable, it must be cheap and grounded in solid neuroscience. We're not a gaming company. We are not a supplement company. We are a neurotechnological company. Our mission is to convert decades of neuroscience research into practical, everyday tools that empower people to take charge of their brain health long before crisis strikes. So today, we introduce Memorydriver, a navigation-based brain training system designed to engage and repeatedly stimulate the hippocampal circuits that underlie memory. It is inspired by real-world navigation science that we just talked about. It is informed by recent clinical trials that I just talked about, and it is built for everyday use. So before I tell you more about Memorydriver, I want you to see the vision. I want you to see why this matters, not just scientifically, but humanly. Let's watch this video together.
Imagine yourself 20 years from now. Life has moved forward, but something precious begins to slip away. You stand in a familiar place, yet nothing feels familiar anymore. The simplest questions you've answered your whole life, suddenly become impossible. You've driven this road for 25 years. But today, you can't remember where you're going. Memories fade. Dates blur. Faces you love slip further from reach. This is the devastating reality of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. A slow unraveling of who you are. But the story doesn't start there. It begins much earlier, long before a diagnosis, long before the world notices something's wrong. It begins quietly. You misplace your keys. You pause on a name you should know. You take a wrong turn on a road you've driven every day. Small moments, easy to dismiss, but sometimes they are early signals. But research gives us hope. Studies show that people who regularly challenge their navigation skills, like taxi drivers learning new routes, tend to strengthen the very parts of the brain linked to memory and orientation. You shouldn't have to change your career to protect your memory. You just need the right kind of mental exercise, the kind tied directly to how the brain forms and preserves memories.
All right, so we pause for one moment and reflect on this journey that started decades ago. As a clinician, let me say this clearly. The brain is not designed to stay strong, just on autopilot. The brain, just like a muscle, it follows the same rule of biology. You either use it or you lose it. If you do not deliberately challenge your memory circuits, you're not preserving them. You're allowing them to weaken. Neuroplasticity does not stop at 40, 50, 60, or 80, but it requires constant stimulation. If you don't train your brain, you are training it to decline. And I can give you a second statement of my conclusion from watching this video. And let me say that as a clinician also, that daily brain training is not entertainment. It is not optional. It is not a casual game. It is preventative medicine. We now know that hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, can strengthen with repeated challenge over time. And we also know that it is one of the regions affected in Alzheimer's disease. So the question really, why won't you want to do these exercises now? So I will thank you all for listening. I will turn this over to Charles, who will introduce the engineering behind this Memorydriver device. Thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you very much, Eva. Next on the agenda is the presentation on the Memorydriver technology by our Global Head of Product Development, Vamsi Reddy. Vamsi is a biomedical engineer from the prestigious Johns Hopkins University. He has over 9 years academic research and industry experience in medtech. Vamsi, over to you.
Thank you, Charles. Good morning. At Evon, we are obsessed with brain. You probably have seen a ton of images across our presentation. We know that memory is not just a function of your life. It is a foundation to define who you are as a person. But for too long, we have been using tools that are either boring, static, or two-dimensional and predictable. Today, we are trying to revolutionize the next generation of brain training through a new application. This isn't just any other application. This is a tool that can gain the control of your memory, the ability to drive your own memory and progress through it. And we call it Memorydriver. I'm very happy and proud to announce that this is the world's first brain training application with hyper-realistic navigation to stimulate your brain in ways that you cannot imagine. This is a tool that is designed to help build more resilient memory learning habits and thereby taking control of what you really want to recall. Every story begins with some simple ideas that is trying to make an impact and change on the world. And we are at the forefront of such an innovation. We want to start off with the fundamental flaw in existing brain training applications. There is familiarity. If you play any game twice, any level twice, you're no longer testing your memory. You're just testing your recognition. You know, you're memorizing the game and you're not training your brain. We have thought about for a year to decide on building a tool that could essentially solve this. We are able to do this by building an adaptive spatial intelligence engine that can generate a new challenge every single time. No memorization shortcuts, no repetitiveness, only real spatial problem solving. We cannot do this without creating an algorithm that is probably advanced in its own style. And we have patented EMMLR, Evon Medics multi-layer randomization. It takes millions of micro coordinate points on a 3D layout to customize its movement, the position of the assets that we build to create the permutations and combination that spans across the millions of possibilities? And the answer is no familiarity. This completely has beaten every single app out there in the market in terms of familiarity and removing any sort of memory shortcuts. We are trying to make the world as realistic as possible, and we want every user to engage in as realistic scenarios as it can be. So we've simulated the environments to emulate the real world scenarios in a never before seen precision. Again, we don't want this just to be random. We want this to be scientific. So we created a cadence, 3 guided learning rounds plus 5 test rounds, creating a perfect symphony of memory challenges every single time. And while you're watching all of these videos, all of this navigation that you want to play, we also have a real cognition engine behind the multimetric performance system that we build. It can track your accuracies, latencies, and errors all the way down to the millisecond precision and can give you performance insights like never before. Behind all the big engineering challenges, we also created the most advanced complexity scenario engine, and which will allow us to enable the complex scenarios that can challenge your brain into possibilities that were never explored with any other brain training application in the world. It can create similar looking streets. It can create similar looking patterns that might challenge and boggle your brain in possibilities that would untap and tap into different regions of the brain parts. Now, everything has to be designed into a design that's backed with science. So this is specifically built with brain science. It can specifically target those spatial navigation systems in your brain that decline first in neurodegenerative devices like Dr. Nwulia quoted. Now, any company would always want to mark their signatures with their product. And similarly, Evon Medics has created an advanced rendering engine. No matter what the device is, no matter where the platform is, whether it's an iOS or an Android, we have done it all. Starting from the wireframe generation in 3D modeling to, we're talking about advanced lighting, smooth texture fixtures, and the final render, oh boy, is amazing when you see it. To sum it up, we have created an advanced data structure system such that your data is secure, your mind is private, both on the cloud and on the device with our dual layer storage system. And ultimately, we want to make it accessible to everybody and anywhere in the world. So we came up with flexible monthly plans, value addition annual plans, and for people committed enough to work throughout their life, we also have a lifetime plan. Now, the fundamental idea of the presentation goes with you can log in just like any other seamless application, and that also multiplies by how well you're going to do throughout in your dashboards and so on. Now, every time you log in into a session, you have different junctions that the system will guide you through, like you see the pointer, and you go across 12 such junctions in each training round across 3 different rounds. And once you complete all the training rounds, you then go to point of testing it, where you do not have the guidance anymore. It's recalling the route to your home, recalling the route to probably going to a movie, since I'm a movie buff. And once you're done with the session, you will have the metrics in an unprecedented form and unprecedented ways. Now, we are going to an extent of tapping everything down to the milliseconds precision. And ultimately, we are at the flexible subscription plan. We have patented algorithms to guide the tool. We have optimized this for all the iOS and Android devices, short sessions and long-term benefits. And I'm very happy and proud to announce that as of this moment, Memorydriver is available for downloads on Apple App Store and Google Play Store. So enjoy the experience, start to take control of your brain training. And from tomorrow, let's never forget our beautiful memories that we've created all our lives.